Good morning, my friends. How are you? Hey, Judy. Hey, Nancy. Good morning, guys. Are you ready for another exciting morning of Phil Spector? We finished with Detective Mark Lilienfeld. There's something outside the presence of the jury. Something about some witness they want to call. I don't know. Um, it's short, and then we get into the next witness, which is about an hour and a half. You guys would be so proud of me. Um, some of you guys know about my contentious relationship with my stepdaughters. Um, I basically didn't talk to them for like 2 years. Um, because they were mean to me and they ordered me around and they would just show up and demand that I do things, and um no matter what my plans were, um if we had made plans and they came over, they invited themselves along with our plans, whatever, it was, it got to the point that I had to change the locks. It was bad. Um, so they called day before yesterday, I think, and asked if they could come over today, and they wanted to come over at noon. And I didn't even think. I didn't even skip a beat. I was like, no, I have plans on Saturday. I have a members only to do on Saturday. Tell them to come later. They have to come later. And I didn't even think about it. In the past I would have been like, okay, I'll cancel my plans. I didn't do that this time. So we're gonna do Phil Spector until around 10 o'clock. And then at 10 o'clock, I've got I've got it ready to portal, guys. So if you're not a member, it's only 99 cents. Join so you can be portal to the members only at 10. And then we will do part two of Jen McCabe's testimony. And then in the first, Karen Reed trial. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of myself, Nancy. Because after I did it, I was like, wow. I didn't even have to stop and think. I was just like, no. um, so I watched the Daryl Brooks hearing yesterday, and there was no fireworks or anything like that. So I decided not to stream it because it's really not that interesting. Judge Darrow basically is Judge Darrow. She hasn't changed much except for her hair, which I was very disappointed in because I got mine layered so that it would look more like hers. I need to get it cut again because it's not, my body is gone because my layers have grown out now. Uh, I can't tell my stepdaughters I have a hot date. I'm married to their dad. Actually, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was my 15th wedding anniversary, and the oldest one wanted me to do her nails, and I'm like, no, it's my wedding anniversary. I've got dinner planned and other things, and no. And she actually came over anyway. Why? I didn't know it at the time because I didn't hear her come in the house. But we were texting, and I was telling her in text not to come over while she was actually in the house, and I didn't know it. So that's what prompted me to have the locks changed. Um. So I did. I did tell her that in no uncertain terms. um. So I showed you the clip from Taylor Schabusiness's hearing of her attacking her lawyer. I watched, I forgot his name, Daryl Brooks. I found, remember I told you about the Sovsit in McBurney's court? I found his second appearance, so I have his first and second appearance recorded. And I don't know when we'll get around to those, but we will get around to those, I promise. Because it's good. There's just not enough time. If I'm gonna have a day off, because Judy makes me take a day off now. It's all Judy's fault. Blame Judy. She likes to mother me, but she's not old enough to be my mother. And last week I had 2 days off because of my husband sprained his ankle. Judy is the best. I have the best mod. She finds stuff for me. She texts me stuff. She's so awesome because she texts me stuff while I'm live, and instead of announcing it in the chat, like, she texts me stuff and then lets me announce it like I found it. And I'm always like, I'm sorry I sold your thunder. And she's like, no, you didn't. You didn't steal my thunder. It's your channel. You get to announce it. Okay, so this is outside the presence of the jury. I'm not sure what they're talking about. Let's see if StreamYard is going to pay today. Oh, he's apologizing now for taking the jury's time yesterday. Or, well, not yesterday, but you know what I mean. Remember the little part we watched yesterday when he inappropriately addressed the judge? For those of you who watched yesterday, remember he confused me. I was like, don't confuse Debbie. Because at a very inappropriate time, he stood up when it should have been time to call a witness. He stood up and started addressing something that was not the right time to address.
Indicated to the court several moments ago, and also I just wanted to emphasize one point of it, that Ms. Kaplan has made it very clear through her counsel to me that she does not want to put in position. Spoke to that in more.
And they're talking about Sarah Kaplan. She was the one that supposedly saw Dr. Henry Lee put the white, whatever it was, tooth, nail, whatever, in the vial and put it in his pocket or whatever. That the whatever, the big question that we're still not 100% sure of, but we do know that Dr. Henry Lee did pick up something at the crime scene and take it home with him, or take it somewhere. Did not turn it into the people he was supposed to turn it into. So this is what they're talking about. I guess they want to call her as a witness, and she doesn't want to testify. She testified. She testified in the hearing. Remember the hearing within the trial that we had? She testified in that, but she does not want to testify against Phil Spector in the trial. My super fudge, what was it called? Super fudge brownie ice cream is almost gone. It was really good though.
A moment ago, but I want to speak to it at this point in the very specific terms that I just have. So I've made my record. The court understands where we are on this, and I think the court may want to hear Jackson and Mr. Dixon's where we're going.
Where we're going is we're planning on trial, although not before the jury. I would also point out everything I know is that Mr. Spector is not reclined at this time. I don't think there's any indication of that. I just don't see any legal reason or privilege that would prevent her from testifying at this time.
Mr. Rudd?
Representing him does not mean that the privilege evaporates into thin air and goes away. The privilege lives, and it lives beyond the relationship. And the court, I know, knows that, and that's the only thing I want to indicate. And I think we've got some decisions to make here now. And also, as I indicated to the court, you know, Mr. Nassatir has now joined us, Your Honor. He's in the court. If the court wants to hear further in terms of what already before court moments ago, he's also available to speak to the court.
On the issue of privilege, the court, I think, went into this kind of made its rulings, listened to the arguments, and made a rather bright line as to where the privilege was and where it wasn't, and on what subject matters. And I don't know that, I mean, it's up to the court, obviously, but I don't know we need to relitigate that. Ask Ms. Kaplan the same questions that were asked before on direct and cross-examination when she testified at the earlier.
Thank you.
Just one final thing. I know that I did say this previously. I'm going to say it again. It is Mr. Spector's position that he does not want Ms. Kaplan testifying in the case against him.
Well, she did not Ms. Kaplan to testify. First, she is not testifying against him, nor is she testifying, will be expected to testify to any privileged communications. She is testifying or would be expected to testify to observations that are clearly not privileged under California law and under United States Supreme Court law. She has no right to claim a privilege to non-privileged matters if she chooses not to testify. Make no mistake, and Mr. Nassatir, if you want to address me and Ms. Kaplan as the courtroom, I will hold her in contempt. I have held an attorney in contempt. I take this extremely seriously. I think she is making a terrible mistake. Mr. Nassatir?
Your Honor, thank you for the opportunity to allow me to address the court. In 40 years of criminal law practice,
Why, StreamYard? Why?
but besides the attorney-client privilege, there's you heard in chambers yesterday where I voiced these same arguments. But besides the attorney-client privilege, there's the work product privilege under that privilege, and there's the attorney-client relationship, which relates this case to the Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution, the Due Process, and the State of California Constitution, Your Honor. And lastly, There is the attorney's duty of loyalty for client, for former client. Imagine which Mr. Spector is not. Imagine the most dangerous person in the world who was your client, and the people calling you as a witness, who were formerly his attorney. And the attorney has to testify. This is not an investigator. This is an officer of the court. This is a person who has, other than an investigator, as in Meredith, this is an officer of the court who has ethical duties handed down to her through centuries and by the unprecedented. I'm asking, don't place a defense attorney in the position of
For your crap today. I am not in the mood for your crap today, StreamYard. I was in a good mood. Don't ruin it. Don't ruin my mood.
of the people who testified in the evidentiary hearing, including my client, against Mr. Spector because he was not present. And the court was going to fashion a remedy, which was for my client has become a witness for the prosecution to testify against her own client. Mr. Spector wasn't there. He wasn't present. This is her trial. The jury that's going to decide his innocence, of life and death, of life and serious prison time for her client. She can't do it. And I'm asking you to reconsider your ruling with all humility, Your Honor. I thank you for hearing me, and I'm appealing to your sense of justice not to do this to my client, Ms. Kaplan.
Thank you. Justice applies not only to Mr. Spector and counsel and the prosecution, also to Ms. Clarkson and to justice itself. Now, you tell me not to put myself between Mr. Spector and Ms. Kaplan. When Ms. Kaplan went to a scene and she observed by her own testimony that she gave under oath, someone manipulate, take, and because of the situation we find ourselves in now, either conceal or destroy evidence, there is no privilege not to testify to her observations. There is none. It is not privileged material. Meredith makes that clear. Fairbanks makes that clear. Lee makes that clear. And even an attorney's sacred obligation to his or her client does not permit them to violate the law. And the courts have held that that is not privileged. And therefore, she has no opportunity or she has no right, if called, not to testify. And if she refuses to testify, I must use the power given to me, which I have never used in 25 years, to see that the law is followed. An attorney is different than no other individual when it comes to following the law. Their obligation is to follow the law. And if she chooses not to testify, and if I order her to testify and she refuses that order, then I will hold her in contempt.
I understand the court's position, Your Honor. It's not a choice. And it's always been a duty. And it's always been a sacred duty. And she holds that dear and she holds that sacred. And she wants me to tell the court she does not want to be contemptuous of the court in any way. This is not just a privilege matter. We keep talking about privilege in this courtroom. I understand the court's ruling that it's not attorney-client privilege. It's much more than that. It's the Sixth Amendment. It's the attorney-client relationship. It's putting an officer of the court who's sworn to be the only friend that a defendant has under the Constitution, the only person that advocates for his interest at every peril, and I'm quoting the canons of ethics, at every peril. The only person your court is putting him in a position to have him called by the prosecutors and subpoenaed by the prosecutors. She's here pursuant to subpoena. She's being forced to come here, and now she's being forced to testify against her own client. It's not right. It's not legal, and I'm asking the court not to punish her for exercising her duty as an officer of this court.
I must respectfully disagree.
No, she's testifying to an illegal act of covering up evidence. She is not testifying against her former client. She's testifying to the fact that she saw evidence being hidden. That's not the same thing.
It is right. It is legal. It is the law, and it is her obligation. I'm sorry, sir. Is it?
Your Honor, this is a gentleman who's assisting us, if it goes that far with appellate matters. His name, Your Honor, escapes me for a moment. Chance Weberman, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you,
right.
Mr. Weberman. I got all wound up there, Your Honor.
All right.
Your Honor, all I want to say is also, you have less drastic alternatives in this case. You can instruct the jury. This can be done by stipulation, which this can be done by an admonishment to the jury.
Stipulation how, Mr. Nassatir?
Well,
Please tell me who's going to stipulate to what?
well, maybe that an anonymous person, rather than an attorney. I don't know. We haven't explored it. I asked that it be explored the other day, and it wasn't. But you can instruct the jury. You can fashion another remedy like you did the other day, like we thought that was the ruling after the evidentiary hearing, that it can be introduced for impeachment if Henry Lee testifies. That was the prior ruling. That was of the evidentiary hearing. And also, Your Honor, as I understand it, Stan White, who's an investigator, is voluntarily here. He can testify to the same thing. Why make an officer of the court testify in this situation where you have less drastic alternatives that you can fashion? And I know that you're a brilliant jurist who can...
Easy, Mr. Nassatir.
Who can...
I don't want to have to drive my robe off, okay?
Who has an active legal mind, who can draft a less drastic alternative, especially when you have the same testimony coming from Stan White.
Well, I'll answer the last one first. I don't make credibility calls, the jury does. But I would say that Mr. White's credibility, because of the way he got into the case and many other factors, is subject to a great deal more impeachment than Ms. Kaplan's is. She is virtually an unimpeachable witness from the people's standpoint. Her credibility is unimpeachable.
Thank you.
And there's a big difference with that and perhaps Mr. White. I'm not saying there is or there is not. That's for the jury to draw. I made to draw that decision or to draw that conclusion. I made certain findings when I made the findings in this case, factual findings that I did. But the people definitely are in a different position having to call Mr. White or relying on Mr. White alone than they are with Ms. Kaplan's testimony. And by a stipulation, the jury, an anonymous person, they don't know who it is, and judging credibility, that's basically useless. If there's a stipulation, if there's an offer to stipulate that Ms. Kaplan would be sworn, called, and testify, that's something else.
That's the same thing.
Well,
but I mean, I'm asking for the court.
I should tell you that there is a chance that testimony would have been introduced into the trial in any effect if I held her in contempt. And obviously, I would stay any such sentence I'm required to as a matter of law, and I would in any event to allow you to test it. But at some point, she may be unavailable as a witness. And then there's a question of whether her prior testimony, which was subject to cross-examination, is admissible at the time of trial. So her victory may be, if there ever is, if you want to call it a victory, I do not. It might be very hollow.
This is not a victory. This
I understand.
Is not a situation where we're in opposition to the court by anything. Nothing in what I've said indicates that she wants to be contemptuous of this court. She wants to follow the law as she's been taught in law school, as she's read by the canon of ethics, and as she's been advised by attorneys, that she can't testify under these circumstances at a jury trial, being called by the people, her clients, who are trying to deprive her client of his liberty. She cannot testify under those circumstances.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor,
Mr. Dixon?
briefly point out two things. One, everyone seems to have forgotten that at the hearing, which no one seems to really recall now, but she took it voluntarily. She went through direct and cross-examination, and because of that, we are now calling her. But she originally did this voluntarily, and she did it on behalf of Mr. Spector's lawyers and came to court and testified. Secondly, if I don't know how this is all going to play out, but if there's going to be a refusal to testify, I think it should be outside the jury's presence.
Well, the question is whether, if I hold her in contempt, and normally you would take any proceeding where someone is going to claim a privilege, excuse me, and do it outside the presence of the jury. I'm not sure, for the purpose of holding her in contempt, not that I want to, and I beg you, Mr. Nassatir, to reconsider your position. I know the position you find yourself in. I know the position that Ms. Kaplan finds herself in. I hope you understand and respect the position I find myself in. I'm basically begging you not to do this.
I'm begging you not to do this.
Well, I guess we're basically, neither one is going to answer the other's request, then. That's what's going to happen. Have to take a look at whether or not it's appropriate to go through with the contempt proceedings if she can claim the privilege and refuse to answer outside the presence of the jury and still be held in contempt. I'm not sure about that.
Your Honor, I want to
Yes.
a couple of things here. In the hearing, outside the presence of the jury, and this is not in any way a derogation of Mr. Dixon, but it was not a cross-examination by the defense. The court basically ordered us to get Ms. Kaplan here for the purposes of that hearing. And when we put Ms. Kaplan on, and I was the lawyer that did put her on, I called her and I examined her on direct, not on cross. And secondly, the purposes for which we presented her at that time were somewhat different. And the examination, and I can tell the court this, the examination was not tailored to be an examination that would ever be read to a jury, because certainly we know in situations where that may be a sign on the doorpost before we walk through the door, we as defense, myself, Mr. Plord, and certainly Mr. Dixon, Mr. Jackson, are going to tailor the deposition in a criminal matter in a state case. So in that particular hearing that we had, it was not a cross-examination by the defense. I put her on as our witness. I put her on direct, and I didn't do a cross-examination of her. And I can tell the court, I remember it, and I certainly, if I had any premonition whatsoever that testimony was going to be wound up at some point being read to a jury because of the declaration by a judicial officer unavailable for future purposes, the questioning would have been done a lot differently. So I think that's important to put that in context, because it has been a bit since we've visited that particular issue with her.
Thank you.
Can I just be
Just a second. I think Ms. Kaplan wishes to be here.
Your Honor, may Ms. Kaplan address the
Of
court?
course she may.
Your Honor, when I was initially contacted by this case, Mr. Wiley of the prosecutor's office called me and said that the court was ordering my presence. And their office was ordered to serve me with a subpoena, which I accepted by fax. I did not
Hurry up. I think they saw that, honey. Sorry, guys. Hey, Terry. I'm so mad at StreamYard right now. Travis did it. Travis broke it. Walk around naked in front of the camera.
Swore to uphold, say otherwise. I have read Meredith. Meredith did not require an attorney to testify. The attorney in that case knew it was evidence. I do not know what I saw. I did not see it leave the premises. I saw something. It was not my call to make. You have an alternative here where this Mr. White claims to have known what it was, claims to have seen exactly where it is. I don't remember. And he claims that he discussed it with Dr. Lee. I did not. I never saw it leave the premises. Under these circumstances, and the court in Meredith limited its holding to the narrow circumstances in that case, they had the investigator testify because he was the one who saw it in the location that it was, not the attorney. They kept the source of the information privileged. And the, I'm sorry. I'm just so upset about this. I have never in my life thought I would be in a position like this, and it's a horrible situation to be in. I have no desire to be contemptuous to Your Honor.
I understand. I understand fully. We're not, excuse me. We're not going to be deciding this today in any event. I need too much time to review some matters before we go forward with Ms. Kaplan. We know what her position is, so the people are going to be forced to move forward with the witnesses, assuming that you have them. You know her position is clear.
Yes. We need a few minutes to
That's fine.
check on alternative witnesses.
May I just add?
Yes.
I agree with Mr. Dixon that this issue needs to be resolved outside of the jury.
I tend to agree with you that normally that's done. There are some things in the contempt procedure that make me question that, but I'll have to seek some guidance on that.
Because we are in an unusual area, beyond the normal process of determining privilege issues outside the presence, we have the additional factor in this case is that this is not admissible against Mr. Spector per se in any event. So we have that second level that sometimes we have to accommodate some way, even in this process now.
I understand.
And also, we just want to keep in mind that the footnote to all this is that, as Ms. Kaplan said and as Mr. Nassatir said, it's not that the government is not without another opportunity, and that is Stan White.
I've responded to that, Mr. Rosen. I think, and I'm going to be very honest, the defense has made noises before about attacking Mr. White's credibility, and then to say, well, use Stan White, that's okay, that'll get the job done. That's basically disingenuous. It's basically disingenuous because I know for a fact that you're going to go after Mr. White. You've already indicated, I don't know whether you plan to attempt to use other things against him that haven't even brought out yet that you've mentioned. And based upon that, to say, well, just go ahead and use Stan White, that's just not right. That's just not right.
First of all, he's not my witness.
Well, I understand that, but what you're doing is you're trying to set up a situation or establish a set of facts or a certain aura that there's no need to call Ms. Kaplan because we have this other witness. But when you plan to attack the other witness and that witness's credibility, when Ms. Kaplan could not be attacked in such a fashion, please do that. It's disingenuous. It very clearly is. And I think we should drop that. You've made the point. I've responded to it. We really need to move along from that point.
Your Honor, at this time, I guess we have no choice. As the court knows, we had a certain witness list planned for this afternoon with the people's apology. Given the circumstances that Mr. Nassatir has brought up before the court and Ms. Kaplan has brought up, I think, Mr. Dixon, I need a few minutes to find out if we can get another witness here. do believe that we will not be able to fill up the entire afternoon, but we may be able to accommodate the court with at least one more witness.
Well, you go ahead and do that. In the meantime, I'm going to excuse Ms. Kaplan and Mr. Nassatir, order you back. We will not be in session tomorrow for good cause. I'll get into that later. We won't be coming back until Monday. So let's put you on call for Monday at 9 o'clock, and if we need you, we'll call you. We'll see where we go.
Your Honor, I wanted to introduce to the court, standing next to me,
Hello.
Mr. Chance Weberman.
How do
He's
you
an
do?
attorney. He's going to be handling other aspects of this case if it comes to that.
If we get there. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
We'll make some
All right.
inquiries. Thank you.
We'll be in recess. Thank you.
For the record.
Robert, Robert, Kyle, Keil.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Kyle, could you do us a favor and tell us what you do for a living, please?
I'm employed as a senior criminalist
Oh yeah, we get lots of AJ today. Yay!
for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Scientific Services Bureau.
What was your employment status back in February of 2003, Mr. Kyle?
I, at that time, was assigned to the identification section. I was in training, which I continued to do even though I was in training for the firearms section.
How long had you been employed by the Sheriff's Department as?
Well, at that time, that would have been about 14 years.
You indicated that you were in training for the firearms section back in February of 2003. Explain to us, for those of us who are the uninitiated, what you mean by you were in training. I'm assuming you were in training for 14 years.
Yes. Prior to my assignment to the firearms identification section, I worked for the physical evidence section of the laboratory, which involved a different type of analysis, a different type of work. In November 2002, I was assigned to the firearms section, where I started approximately year-and-a-half training program for the collection of that type of evidence. However, I was still assigned to the after-hours crime scene investigation list for the collection of evidence at different locations.
As of February of 2003, well, let me ask you this foundationally. I'll back up one question. Is it normal for a criminalist to move from section to section over the years, course and scope of their employment at the sheriff's? What you just explained to the jurors about your being in training at the firearms identification section, that was one of those circumstances where you had been assigned for several years to another section and then moving on to the firearms identification section, correct?
Yes.
But your after-hours assignment for crime scene investigations, that had been pretty consistent throughout your tenure at the crime lab?
Yes. In fact, beginning as early as 1990, I conducted field responses. And in 1994, my assignment to the trace evidence section through late 2003, I was still performing those functions as a physical evidence analyst, crime scene investigator.
So as of February of 2003, you had been doing some field investigative work and analysis for some 13 years or so.
Yes.
All right. So were you called out to 1700 Grandview Drive in Alhambra?
Yes, I was.
And going back to what we just talked about, I'm assuming that, as they say, the investigation that you did at 1700 Grandview, that wasn't your first rodeo, right?
That's correct.
All right. I guess you wouldn't say that. I would say that. All right.
Yes.
Who did you go with to 1700 Grandview?
Well, I was, my response was requested by another criminalist who was at the location. His name was Steve Renteria, and I was called by him to assist him in the documentation, identification, collection, and preservation of evidence items at that location.
Who is Steve Renteria?
Steve Renteria is a criminalist, as am I, who is assigned to the forensic biology section of the laboratory.
You said that your duties at the crime scene included the documentation, collection, and investigation or analysis of certain physical items of evidence. Is that correct?
Yes, everything excluding analysis. It's primarily the identification, documentation, collection, and preservation of any items of potential evidence value.
What education, training, and background qualified you to perform those duties?
Educationally, I have a bachelor's degree in biology I received from California State University, Northridge in 1988. I have a minor in chemistry. I hired at the crime laboratory in 1989, initially assigned to the narcotics section, subsequently to the physical evidence section, also known as the trace evidence section, and then in my current assignment to the firearms identification section. I have taken several classes through the California Department of Justice, California Criminalistics Institute in crime scene investigation, including Crime Scene Investigation 1 and Crime Scene Investigation 2, a more advanced course. A total of 80 hours of crime scene training. I have been trained by senior members of the staff at the laboratory in scene investigation. I have performed evidence collection and documentation at hundreds of scenes, ranging from the investigations of burglary through multiple homicide. I have produced reports on my findings, and I have testified several hundred times as an expert witness in courts of law for the County of Los Angeles.
When you've testified as an expert and been qualified as an expert, you said, I think, several hundred times, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that on the issue of documentation, collection of evidence?
Yes, in many instances involving my personal field response, my documentation, and collection of items.
Can you explain for the jurors what the proper method for collection and documentation of evidence at a crime scene entails?
Objection made as to what items he's talking about.
Just generally speaking out loud, overruled.
Well, it does depend on the type of investigation that's being conducted. My response is at the request of the homicide detective, needs assistance in the documentation, maybe the identification of potential evidence items. How those items are handled depends on what type of evidence it is, frequently involving blood stains, involving clothing items, involving weapons of different sorts, and also just involving my experience with other investigations as far as recognizing what items are of potential evidence value and working essentially with the handling scene detective to give him a feeling for what we're looking at and what items that would be important for him to collect, for him to have for his investigative purposes, and then how those items will be properly packaged depends on what those items are.
Mr. Kyle, what time did you get to 1700 Grandview?
At approximately 6 o'clock in the evening on February 3rd, 2003.
Specifically, and I'm going to narrow my questioning a little bit here, specifically, were you tasked with the responsibility of the documentation and collection of certain items of evidence once at the crime scene?
Yes.
All right, I want to focus your attention on certain item numbers. These are not, these are the numbers that the Sheriff's Department or the Sheriff's Crime Lab worked in conjunction with the Sheriff's investigative team to document the evidence. In other words, the item numbers that I'm talking about are not items that have been marked here in court. They're the items that the Sheriff's Department gave them, okay? We're on the same page about that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Specifically, were you asked to review and document and collect tooth material from the floor in front of the victim, Lana Clarkson, close to the stairwell wall, if you will?
Yes.
All right. Take a look at tab 56, Sudie. What's been previously marked, I'm sorry, this has not been previously marked. Your Honor, may I have this document marked? This is an 8.5 by 11 document bearing 6 photographs, A through F, as in Frank. As people's next in order, I think it's 91.
It is 91.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you recognize what's depicted in photographs A through F on people's 91?
Yes, I do.
Starting with the photograph A, how do you recognize that photograph and what is it that we're looking at?
This is a photograph depicting the decedent, and she is slumped in a chair in the South Hall foyer area. This is immediately inside the entrance that I went into the residence. The chair would be on the east side of the foyer.
All right. I'm going to enlarge that photograph A. It's a little bit difficult to see, but I want to draw your attention to an item that appears to be small and white in color on the abdomen, and I believe Sudie is highlighting that item right now. It's a little bit blurry. Sudi, if we could go back to the larger photograph. Do you see that white item?
Yes.
All right. Do you recall seeing that white item at the scene?
Yes.
Was that collected by you or another member of the crime lab or the coroner's office, or do you know?
I did not collect that particular item. I'm not familiar with who might have.
All right, but you did see that item on her torso, if you will, in her lap while you were at the crime scene, correct?
I do recall seeing that, yes.
All right. Do you know what item number that was eventually booked as?
No, I don't.
Okay, because you didn't personally do it,
No,
or you're not involved with it.
that's correct. No.
Do you have any personal knowledge, Mr. Kyle, as you sit here, whether or not that was in fact a piece of tooth material?
Objection. Let's see, he said he wasn't familiar with that.
He asked if he had any knowledge. He can answer yes or no. If he answers no, that ends it. If he answers yes, we'll go into it further. Overruled, you may answer.
No, I didn't examine it closely. I'm not sure what the item was.
All right, let's go back to the full frame photographs, please. Once again, moving back to People's 91, take a look at photograph B as in boy and tell us what it is that we're looking at in that photograph.
Well, we're looking at the door of the south foyer, which is open on the left side of the photograph, and we're seeing two evidence placards, evidence item number 4 and evidence item number 5.
Were those item placards placed by you or some other member of the sheriff's department?
No, those were placed down by someone else.
It's kind of hard to see because that's a small photograph for us, but does photograph B in People's 91 indicate placard number 4 closest to the door and placard number 5 basically dead center in the photograph?
Yes.
All right. Do you see a highlight of photograph B, I'm sorry, of placard 5 in photograph C as in Charlotte?
Yes.
Do you recognize that placard?
Yes.
Okay. Does that appear to be an accurate photograph, albeit a little bit dark, an accurate photograph of the items that placard number 5 was meant to highlight?
Yes.
Were you tasked with the responsibility of collecting item 5 or items that were ultimately going to be designated as item 5?
Yes.
Was it one item or several pieces of physical evidence?
No, there were several pieces.
Describe that for the court, for the jurors, please.
Yes, item 5 appeared to be several pieces of what resembled tooth material, possibly cosmetic tooth material, and pieces of wood debris that were in that general area. There were several pieces. I didn't count exactly how many.
All right. Taking a look at photograph D as in dog, do you see two placards that are highlighted or circled on that photograph?
Yes, I do.
Sudi, if you don't mind, can we take a closer look at that photograph? I'm going to ask you to take a little bit larger look at that photograph, an enhanced look at that photograph. Is that the same photograph?
Yes.
Okay. Does it look like there are either placards or pieces of paper designating two items of potential evidence on the stairway?
Yes.
All right. And the first one where the arrow is right now is sort of toward the middle of the stairway. Is that right?
Yes.
And the white item or the white page that's folded in half appears to be toward the top of the stairway, correct?
Yes.
Did you take a close look at those items?
I did.
And were they ultimately designated in item number?
Yes, the item that was more on the middle of the stairs was given item number 10, and the item that was farther up the stairs was given item number 11.
Let's go back to the full exhibit. Yeah, 91. Oh, it's up there. All right, photograph E is in Edward. Does that appear to be a closer view of item number 10, which was midway up the stairs?
Yes.
And is the placard number 10 designating the small white object to the left of it?
Yes, it is.
And item number 11, I assume your answer would be the same thing, that that's further up the stairs, yes?
Correct.
And the placard is designating the item to the left of it as well.
That's right.
All right. Did you, in fact, collect all of the items that are designated in B, C, D, E, and F, those photographs?
Yes.
And you did not collect the item in photograph A, correct?
No, I did not.
Okay. May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Let's go to item 5. Mr. Kyle, describe how you collected those. Well, let's start with item number 5, the material on the floor down in the foyer area. How did you collect those items?
Well, I basically got on my hands and knees and used a pair of forceps and a glass test tube vial. And while wearing gloves, picked up the items, placed them into the test tube vial, and sealed it with a cork. And that's the same for items 5, 10, and 11, which were all collected in that manner.
Your Honor, I'd like to have marked as People's Next in Order 92, an 8.5 by 11 document that bears 3 photographs, including photograph A, B, and C that appears to highlight item number 5.
So marked.
Mr. Kyle, I want you to take a look at, first of all, let's start with C and work backward. Do you recognize that photograph as being an accurate depiction of approximately where you recovered the items that you placed in the vial that you just described?
Yes.
Do you see photograph B as in boy?
Yes.
What is that a picture of?
That picture appears to be the contents of item number 5, the pieces that were collected.
White material as well as some what appear to be wood chips or wood splinters.
Yes.
Now, did you analyze the white material yourself, or did you just collect it and book it into evidence?
No, my examination was limited to just a cursory observation at the crime scene. I then packaged it, and it was taken to the laboratory for further analysis at a later time.
Okay, so yours might be called field observations, correct?
Correct.
As opposed to a deeper, more intensive criminalistic type of analysis, correct?
That's right, just with the naked eye, no microscope, stereo microscope, just to get an idea of what that item was.
All right, and was that test tube ultimately placed in a manila envelope?
Yes.
And that was designated with the proper DR number?
Yes, the sheriff's file number.
And the item number as well, item 5, correct?
Yes.
Take a look at photograph A. Does that reasonably depict the manila envelope as well as the vial with the number 5 on the vial just above the envelope?
Yes.
And there's it appears to be some kind of a ruler, a blue ruler above it. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And there's an item sitting on the ruler. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Let's go to previously Exhibit 54, I believe. See what 54 is. That's been previously marked, correct? Okay. Your Honor, if with the court's permission, I'd like to place on the overhead what's been previously marked as Exhibit 54, People's 54. And that is labeled Teeth Fragments, Item 10. Mr. Kyle, do you recognize the photograph C? And again, we're going to work a little bit backwards here. C is in Charlie?
Yes.
That circle indicates what you collected as item number 10, correct?
Yes.
Looking at photograph B as in boy, is that a photograph of the vial marked number 10 and the evidence envelope attendant to that vial?
Yes.
You placed the vial with the contents into the envelope and booked that in evidence as well.
Yes.
And that bears the same DR number.
Yes.
And that's consistent with how you did item 5, correct?
Correct.
And that, along with item 5, was later submitted for later analysis by Dr. Harold and others at the crime lab. Is that right?
Yes.
Taking a look at photograph A, that's simply another photograph of the same item, the evidence envelope and the attendant vial. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. Let's move to item 11. I'm going to ask you to do the same thing, and let's walk through these a little bit more quickly with item 11. Your Honor, this is yet to be marked. I'd ask that this document be marked as People's Next in Order 93.
93.
And this also bears 3 photographs, photograph A, photograph B, and photograph C, and it appears to highlight, as we've been referencing, item 11. Mr. Kyle, do you recognize the photograph on the right?
I do.
And once again, is that circle highlighting the place where you recovered the item that you've designated as number 11?
Yes.
Taking a look at photographs A and B, is that are those photographs of the evidence envelope and the attendant evidence vial that you placed item 11 in?
Yes, in fact, I do recognize my writing as well.
Okay. And your writing appears where? On the envelope or the vial?
Both.
Okay. You submitted that envelope and the vial to the crime lab for later analysis as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
And again, I assume that you, from your previous answer, that you did not engage in any more than a field observation of these items, their collection, the documentation, and then the submission at the crime lab for later analysis, correct?
That's correct. I did not.
All right. And I want to move upstairs, if you will, with me. Do you remember collecting an item of evidence designated as number 19?
Yes, I do.
Can you describe for the jurors what item number 19 was?
Yes, item 19 is what I would describe as an off-white or champagne-colored sport coat that was kind of crumpled in a mass on the floor of what I would describe as a TV or dressing room that was near the top of the stairs, near where the decedent was located.
Take a look at what's been previously marked as People's 88 for identification. Tell me, Mr. Kyle, let's move from photograph A to the right. In photograph A, what do you see?
Well, this would be the view looking into the room that I described as the TV or dressing room.
Do you see the item that was later designated as item number 19 in that field of view?
Yes, I do. It's on the right-hand side, about in the middle of the photograph, and it's near the front right corner of the reclining chair that can also be seen in the photograph.
Mr. Kyle, close to your right hand by those microphones is a small laser pointer. I think the top middle, maybe an idea is exactly where photograph A.
Right here, as I'm indicating with the laser.
May the record reflect the easiest way to identify that, I think, for the record, Your Honor, is to indicate the recliner chair and the white crumpled material that's just to the right of the recliner chair in photograph A.
Thank you.
The photograph B to the right, does that also depict where that jacket is?
Yes, it does, and if I can indicate with the pointer, it's approximately in the middle of the photograph and near the bottom.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. And the witness has indicated just above the letter B, there appears to be a white crumpled material in the floor. And taking a look at photograph C for identification, photograph C in People's 88 for identification, is that a close-up of that jacket?
Yes, it is, as well as some sandals or slippers that were nearby.
All right. Was the jacket collected by you?
Yes, it was.
How did you collect that jacket?
Well, I utilized latex gloves. I picked the jacket up and I placed it into like a grocery-sized paper bag.
Was the bag sealed?
Not the time I picked it up. It was not sealed for some time later.
Is there a reason why it wasn't sealed immediately?
Well, not tape sealed. It was folded over. The top was folded over, but normally when I collect evidence items, they're not sealed until they are prepared for submission to the evidence control section.
Okay, so the bag was not left open, correct?
That's correct. It would be folded over, but not tape sealed or stapled or anything.
Right. And is the reason that you would fold the bag over is to prevent any inadvertent contamination and things of that nature?
Yes.
Is collection of items of clothing like this at crime scenes, and I think you've been to dozens, if not hundreds of crime scenes, correct?
Yes.
Is the collection of items of clothing at crime scenes properly done or normally done in the standard operating procedure to use paper bags?
Yes, that's correct.
Which is a larger type of bindle than the small manila envelope that we've talked about before, correct?
Yes.
All right, and those are specifically designed for the collection of items of clothing and larger items like that, correct?
Yes, essentially large, heavy-duty grocery-style bags.
All right. Was there a reason why you
But was it a Stop and Shop bag?
collected that white jacket?
Yes.
Why?
Well, during my examination of that room, I observed bloodstains on the item, and that stood out as a potential evidence. Got the next item in line and assigned it item number 19 for collection.
Is it safe to say that you did not, in fact, engage in anything more than a field observation of this particular jacket, but because of your field observation, you collected it, booked it, and it was later submitted to others at the crime lab for a more intensive analysis? Is that safe to say?
Yes, essentially, I observed the item. I did not perform a detailed examination. I examined it enough to determine that there were bloodstains on the item, and then collected it for later examination.
Thank you. May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, that's all I have for this witness. Thank you.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kyle. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. We haven't met. I've seen you in the hallway. My name is Linda Kenny Bod, and I'm one of the attorneys representing Phil Spector, okay?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you also. You did a report and did notes or field notes on this matter, correct?
I did take field notes. I did not personally write the report.
Okay, but you took your field notes, and field notes are handwritten notes that you take at or about time that you're at a location?
Yes,
Okay, and you put important things in those field notes for the investigation, things that you feel are important, correct?
yes, relevant observations, general descriptions.
Okay, and Mr. Jackson asked you about when you arrived on the scene, and that was about 6 o'clock?
Yes,
And then you departed the scene at 2017, would that be correct?
no, I think it was later than that, 22.
2217, maybe your writing may be as good as mine is, okay?
Mother said I should be a doctor, yes.
Okay, 2217, and that would indicate when you left, correct?
Yes.
Now, the first line in your field notes, do you have them with you, sir?
I have a copy of my notes,
Could you
yes.
pull them out, please?
Yes. Okay, I have 2 pages of my notes labeled page number 1 and page number 2.
That's what I have, okay, so we're on the same page. Because I'm having a little trouble reading and writing, let me see if I could read the first line in your notes, and you tell me whether it's right or wrong. Request, REQ, request,
Yes.
does that stand? Made by Steve Renteria,
Yes,
to assist in crime scene investigation involving a high-profile person. Or is that the first line in your notes?
yes, it is.
Now, did it make any difference to you as a trained trace evidence person about whether to collect something based on the fact that they're high profile or not?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. Why did you put in the first line of your notes that this was an investigation involving a high profile person?
It's just a circumstance of the case that I made a general observation. It doesn't affect my collection of evidence.
Well, did anyone tell you that Phil Spector was a high profile person?
I have heard the name before, but I don't recall anybody explaining who he was exactly.
So is that some conclusion you drew, or did Mr. Renteria tell you that when he asked you to come?
I don't recall.
Okay. In any event, that is the first line in the notes that you made on the collection of evidence, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you indicated to me that it was, or indicated to Mr. Jackson that your job is to collect evidence and correctly document it, correct?
Yes.
And that's because you want to correctly document it and collect it so that we know that by the time the jury is hearing about the evidence, what they're hearing about is the same thing you collected, right?
Yes, chain of custody, essentially.
Chain of custody is a fancy lawyer term. And also you want to make sure it's collected properly and you want to document that proper collection, correct?
Yes.
And you want to indicate what the items are, correct?
Yes,
And you want to preserve them for the state to do testing, correct?
correct.
And as a trained criminalist, or trained crime scene investigator, someone who's been in court before, you also know it's important for the defense to have access to certain items to test it, correct?
Yes,
And you want to make sure that what you collect is the same throughout, correct?
yes, that the item I describe in my notes and collect is the item that's later examined and that somebody may later write a report regarding.
Okay. Could I troubleshoot you if we could have People's 92? Would that be possible? I'm trying to avoid going to ZZZZZ, Your Honor, or whatever it is.
No problem.
92, I believe it is. People's 92 is the documentation pictorially of the evidence collection of the particles that are in number 5, correct?
Yes,
And in fact, in number 5, at the scene, you documented that 2 pieces of hard white material, possible dental material, was collected within that number 5, right?
no, that's not correct.
You did not.
No,
Did you ever tell Detective Lilienfield that only 2 pieces of hard white material were collected?
no,
Did you collect wood fragments?
yes,
How many wood fragments?
I did not count them.
Okay. As you sit here today, from your notes, can you tell how many wood fragments were collected?
No, I didn't count them at the scene.
Do you have notes yourself to tell you how many pieces of hard white material you collected?
No, I did not examine them closely at the scene.
Okay. If I showed you a report from Detective Lillianfield, do you think that could refresh your recollection? I'm not trying to impeach him. I'm trying
He's just
to.
asking
He didn't say he didn't remember.
sustain, you may lay the
Do
foundation.
you remember how many pieces of hard white material you collected in number 5?
No, I did not count them.
Okay. May I approach to show the
Would
report?
looking at this document possibly refresh your recollection?
I don't believe I'm missing any recollection. I know I didn't count them, so.
Okay, so he's not
Okay.
going to recall how many he recovered, and then he may not approach for that purpose.
Okay, all right. Now, is it fair to say that in here, there are 3 pieces of tooth material, or 3 pieces of white material, possibly tooth material?
That's what it appears in the photograph to be. It's number B.
Okay, number B of 92?
Letter B,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Now, who would have documented what went into test tube number 5 if it wasn't you?
Who would have or who should have?
Well, who should have?
Well, it would be the person who's performing the examination of that, somebody assigned to the physical evidence section.
So what you're saying then is if you collect material at the scene, you don't count how many pieces you're collecting?
No, at that time, I don't have access to laboratory environment, stereo microscope, magnified vision. So no, it would be collected and preserved at the scene and then properly documented later at the laboratory.
My question to you is when you collect an item at scene, is what you're telling me that it's not within your protocol to count how many items you're collecting? Is that what you're saying?
Not in the instance for that particular evidence item, not to count the individual pieces, no.
When you say not in the instance of that particular evidence item, is it within your protocol to count other evidence items that you collect?
Well, no, I don't know that it's necessarily is. For instance, if it's a jacket, it wouldn't be unusual to describe it as one jacket, or if it's 2 jackets, 2 jackets. But these are very small items.
Well, where is your description of what you collected at the scene?
I can review my notes.
Please.
If you were collecting a bunch of tooth fragments, don't you think, even for your own curiosity, don't you think you would want to count how many tooth fragments you found? I would. I'd be like, oh my God, how many pieces of teeth am I picking up? Maybe I'm just curious that way. I don't know. I would think I would want to count them.
Okay, on page 2 of my notes, approximately 3/4 or more down, the sentence that begins, I collected knob as number, wood pieces and 2 pieces as 10 and 11. Correct.
Okay. Now, when you put it into this little manila envelope here, is there a way to highlight that at all from your exhibit, Sudie? Is there a way to highlight or get that a little bit bigger from your exhibit so you can't do it on yours? It'll take a little time? Okay, well, we'll record ourselves. Thank you. Okay. When you put it into the envelope, what is your normal protocol for what you write on the outside of the envelope?
Well, the minimum would be the item number. I, as a general purpose or practice for myself, include a description of what's in there. And that's placed into a larger outer container when it's submitted to the evidence control section.
Okay. Was anyone else with you when you were collecting these items?
There was nobody else directly with me. There were other personnel at the scene, including Mr. Renneria, but not anybody observing or directly assisting me in the collection of those items.
And you put these items in a test tube because you don't want anything to happen to them. You want them to be secure, correct?
Right, a test tube specifically because it will protect it from perhaps damaging the outside of the envelope or anything damaging the items within it.
And so it's fair to say that what you put into that test tube at the scene should be what comes out of that test tube when it's examined at the crime lab. Isn't that fair to say?
Yes.
Do you know whether what you put in at the scene was what came out at the crime lab?
Well, that depends on the condition of the evidence when it was examined by the laboratory personnel that examined it.
Okay, so after you put it in, you don't have any follow-up on that, correct?
That's right.
But in the best of all possible worlds, the amount of items you put on the envelope should be the amount of items at the other end of the crime lab, correct?
Yes.
And that's the point of proper collection of evidence, that you don't put in too little or too many, you put in what's there, and then hopefully it ends up in the same condition when it gets to the crime lab, correct?
That it's packaged and preserved for later analysis, yes.
Do you know how many items of tooth material were at the crime lab when they looked at it?
No, I didn't perform any laboratory examination.
And since you don't know how many items that you put in, you have no way of documenting which is what you put in is what came out, correct?
No, only in the sense that it's placed in the container by me and then sealed for submission. And then the person that gets it needs to notate the condition of that item when they receive it.
Now, item number 10 that you talked about was one piece or two pieces?
Item number 10 was one piece.
How do you remember item number 10 was one piece when you can't tell us from your notes what item number 5 was?
Objection, that's argument.
Sustained to the form of the question.
Why is it that you can tell how many pieces item number 10 is?
Well, for the description in my notes, I described those as tooth pieces 10 and 11, not teeth pieces.
You drive this, excuse me?
I describe it in the singular, tooth pieces 10 and 11, as opposed to teeth, as well as my recollection of those items.
Well, excuse me, could you refer to, you're saying that if you put teeth pieces, it means it's multiple, and if you put tooth pieces, it means it's singular?
Well, I described tooth pieces as one way, and then another would be just my recollection of those items at the scene.
Well, what I'm asking you is, are you saying in your notes, when you put multiple pieces in, you put teeth pieces, and when it's one piece, you put a tooth piece?
No, not necessarily, no.
Right, so in this situation, you described items number 5 as tooth pieces, correct?
Yes,
And you described item number 10 and 11 as tooth pieces, correct?
yes.
And you have no way from your notes of telling, from your notes, how many pieces actually went into items 5, 10, and 11, do you?
For item 5, I didn't count, so I can't tell you how many. Item 10 and 11 were one piece of tooth each.
Is that because you remember it?
Because I remember it, yes.
Okay, but you do not remember item number 5.
I did not count the item. I just recall that there were pieces of tooth or tooth material in that item.
Did you ever tell anyone that item number 5 contained only 2 pieces of hard white material?
No.
Did you ever tell anyone that item number 5 contained pieces of fingernail?
No.
Have you had conversations with Detective Fournier about item number 5 or 10?
No, I don't recall having any, no.
Did you have any conversations with Detective Lilyfield about items number 5 or 10?
Maybe cursory conversations at the location, but not subsequent to that, no.
Did anyone from the laboratory come to you and ask you how many pieces were in the crime lab? Did anyone from the detectives ever come and ask you how many pieces were in item number 5 when you took it from the scene?
No.
Did anyone from the sheriff's department come and ask you how many pieces were in item number 5 when you took it from the scene?
No.
Are these your pictures, by the way?
No, they're not.
And here, Jennifer, do we have one of ours showing item number 5, perchance? We could blow it up. Well, she's looking up, she's got it. Can you blow that up a little bit? This is previously marked, or is this not been marked? This is RRRR, and that's for R markings, Mr. Kyle, okay? Is there any way from any of the documentation on the scene that you could tell us today in 2007 how many pieces of white particulate material actually went into that test tube on February 3rd, 2003?
Well, I didn't count them, and I don't know that that photograph is detailed enough to count the items individually, so I don't know that the number can be ascertained from that photograph.
Have you ever seen any photograph taken that would help you determine how many items went into item number 5?
Well, the photograph that I saw previously seemed to show the contents of that item.
Okay, that's Sudi's item, then item number 92. Okay. Over here.
Oh, well, the closer photo that shows the pieces laid out with the scale. The
Over
photograph
here?
B.
Are you absolutely certain that you put 3 pieces of white particle material into that test tube?
Well, I'm certain that that resembles the items that I collected. I can't tell you exactly how many pieces were individually in that test tube.
Okay. Did you direct the picture of the scene to be taken?
I don't recall if I directed that specifically. It was taken by personnel at the scene.
Okay. All right. So when you were collecting the evidence at the scene and documenting the evidence at the scene, was there any other evidence that you collected that you didn't count how many items went into the test tube or a bag or whatever it was?
No, I believe all the other items that I collected were larger. They weren't small items of trace material.
So is the answer no?
I don't recall if I put any number. I have a description of the item, which answers the question for all the items that I collected.
Okay. Now, you did, am I correct that you went around the house and looked for evidence, or was your testimony that the detectives told you where to go and you went?
No, on my own initiative, I searched the location, several different rooms for any items that I felt were of evidence value.
All right. When you say you searched several different rooms, what rooms did you search?
Well, there were many rooms at the location. I went into as many as I could locate.
And how many was that?
Oh, gosh, I don't recall offhand.
Do you have that in your notes?
No.
Do you have a description of the rooms you searched in your notes?
Only the rooms that I conducted more detailed examinations of.
And those would be what rooms?
The what I describe as the TV or dressing room, as well as what I described as the master bedroom and the foyer area.
Okay. And when those 3 rooms that you did the detailed looking of, you looked at everything in the rooms, correct?
Yes, I conducted an examination to see if I could
I hope not, Bill, because he died in prison.
determine if any items were of value.
Right. And in fact, you even looked at the trash contents of things in the room to see if anything of evidential value had been thrown out, correct?
That's right, yes.
Did you look in the bathrooms that surrounded the area?
I looked in the bathroom in the master bedroom, and I believe there's also a bathroom in the TV dressing room that I examined.
And you didn't find anything of evidential value, sir, in the master bedroom or the bathroom that you examined, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't finish. I also searched the bathroom downstairs in the foyer area.
Well, let's start with the 2 upstairs. Those are the 2 upstairs you were talking about, the first 2?
Yes.
Did you find anything of evidential value in those bathrooms?
No, I didn't see anything of value to me at those locations.
And you looked at the sinks, correct?
At the, I'm sorry, I didn't hear. The sinks?
The sinks in those bathrooms?
Yes, just as a general examination, if I could determine if there was any blood present.
Looked at the shower or bathtubs if they had any present in those bathrooms, correct?
I don't recall searching the shower or bathtub in particular, no.
Well, if you had seen something that looked like blood entering a shower or bath, you would have looked at it, correct?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
No, I think that's a question that can be asked. If you'd seen what you believe to be blood in the shower, would you have examined it further?
Yes.
Why?
Well, if there was blood in another area of the residence, it may be significant to the investigation.
And in fact, in the areas of the residence that you examined on the 2nd level, you did not find any blood in the residence except for the white jacket you were talking about, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And you didn't find upstairs anything in any of the trash cans you examined, correct?
That's right, yes.
You didn't feel the need to take the sinks out and have them further examined because they looked like they hadn't been used, correct?
No, there was no indication that there was anything of evidence value on or around the sinks of the bathrooms that I examined.
And in the 2nd floor, you went through other portions, other bedrooms, correct?
Yes,
And you didn't find any blood in the other bedrooms, correct?
correct.
And you went through, would fair to say, a fairly detailed examination of the rooms so that you could see if you saw anything of evidentiary value, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Now, you started talking about downstairs, there was a bathroom, correct?
Yes.
And would that be the powder room that was off the side of the stairway?
Yes.
Okay. And you saw some items in there, correct?
Yes, there were several items in that area.
And was Lana Clarkson still at the scene when you were there?
Yes.
And so when you were there, that was before the coroner had arrived and taken her away then? Would that be fair to say?
Yes. Coroner's personnel arrived shortly after I did at the location.
Okay. And when did you say that you left, sir?
Close to 10:30 in the evening,
10:30 in the evening on
February 3rd.
February 3rd. Okay. And you had arrived at 6 o'clock, correct?
Yes.
And your testimony as the coroner's personnel had not yet come into the house at that point, correct?
No, as I recall, they had arrived shortly after I did. I saw Dr. Pena and some other personnel there.
Okay. And you also, when you looked for the white particles on the floor that we discussed as number 5, you said you got down on your hands and knees?
That's right, yes.
And you looked all around that floor, correct?
Yes.
Because you were looking for small white particles, were you not?
Yes.
Why was that?
Well, I had a few pieces of material there at that location where item 5 was. They were very small. I was concerned that there might be additional items that maybe weren't on the top of the carpet. That perhaps if I got down closer to the floor, I might be able to locate any additional items of potential value.
Okay. Would it be fair to say there was a lot of stuff on the carpet that you determined was not of evidentiary value?
Yes.
Okay. Jennifer, could we have picture 2.081? Let's see if it's been previously marked before we give it a number. And this has not had a number, I gather, Your Honor, so if we could give a Z, I guess, Z.
Quadruple Z.
Quadruple Z?
Quadruple Z. I don't believe we actually used, we started to talk about it. I don't have anything. It's possible.
Could we blow up the area near the feet, Jennifer, please? Now, sir, do you see a lot of what appears to be, for lack of a technical term, white stuff all over the floor here?
Yes, I see what appears to be general debris on the floor.
Okay, and is it fair to say that not all general debris or white stuff is evidential, correct?
Yes.
Were you looking for any shattered pieces of acrylic?
I was looking for anything in that area that I might think would have some aid in the investigation.
Okay, and how big pieces were you looking for? Pin dot size, above pin dot size?
Well, some of the pieces that I had already collected were very small, maybe 1/8 of an inch or smaller. So very small items, including any additional tooth pieces or possibly any pieces of fingernail.
Okay, so you were looking for pieces of 1/8 of an inch or even smaller, correct?
Yes, just from my experience,
It's his because he bought it.
knowing that items of trace evidence can be very small.
Okay, and you actually examined this whole area around here, correct?
Yes.
And you examined the whole area around the stairwell, correct?
Yes.
And you got down on your hands and knees and you brushed into the rug, correct?
Yes, at least in the area around item number 5.
Okay, and you did not find anything else of evidential value, did you?
No.
Okay. Besides the 2 tooth pieces that you mentioned, did you find anything of evidential value on the stairwell?
No.
Now, when you were there, how many detectives were there?
I don't recall offhand. There were several.
Okay, and do you remember their names?
Well, I recall Detective Lilienfeld, Detective Katz. I also saw Detectives Bean and Kerfoot, Detective Danny Smith, and I can't recall specifically anybody else, but I believe there were additional personnel there.
And is it fair to say that if you had seen anything else in the upstairs bathroom with regard to where you were searching, you would have pointed out to the detectives, correct?
Yes.
And by the way, when the room that the white jacket was in, I think in your report you indicated that you saw a number of black sweatpants or other clothes in the area?
Yes, there were some clothes on the black recliner, some boots and socks in front of the recliner. It was quite a few clothing items in the room.
And a lot of them were on the recliner, some of them were on the floor, correct?
Yes, as well as many others, of course, hanging in the closet.
As well as many others in the closet. So they were kind of all over the room. Would it be fair to say?
Yes.
In plain view?
Yes, I would describe the majority of them in plain view, of course, other than the ones that were in the closet.
White jacket was pretty easy to see, correct?
Yes, just on the floor in front of the recliner.
Okay. Wasn't hidden in any way, was it?
No, it was pretty much just crumpled up on the floor.
Didn't look like it had been buried in the backyard, did it?
No.
Didn't look like it had been thrown in the trash, did it?
No.
Didn't look like it had been attempted to be burned, did it?
No.
The downstairs, when you went downstairs into the bathroom, you found a number of items in the bathroom, correct?
Yes.
You found a rag, correct?
Yes, technically I observed them. They were already marked as evidence, so I didn't locate them.
But you saw them, correct?
Yes.
Right, you saw a number of other things in the bathroom, right?
Yes.
Okay. And everything you saw was in plain view, correct?
Yes.
The rag in the bathroom was in plain view, correct?
Yes, I believe it was just laying on the floor.
Okay. And there were a couple of other items in the bathroom that you saw. Jennifer, if we could have. Now I know how Mr. Dixon and Mr. Brunon feel, Your Honor.
Okay.
I know they're here. One, 2, 4, 7. Maybe this could be marked A5 rather than quadruple.
No, it's quadruple A.
Quadruple,
Quadruple A.
okay. Quadruple A.
No, quintuple A.
Quintuple A, okay.
Thank you.
All right. You saw the eyelashes sitting on the top of the toilet tank?
Yes.
Right. And they were in that condition with the glue attached to them, correct?
They look as they appear in the photograph, yes.
You didn't see any blood on those eyelashes, did you?
I did not notice any. I did not examine them closely.
Okay. Well, if you had seen them just from what's called a gross view, you would have pointed that out to the detectives, correct?
Yes.
Sure. All right. And then if we could have item 124A, please?
Is this another exhibit?
Yes, sir.
Quintuple B?
Okay. Was this wash rag sitting in the sink?
Yes.
It was in plain view, just like it was there?
Yes.
Hadn't attempted to be, from your gross observation of it, hidden, correct?
That's correct.
Hadn't attempted, from your gross observation, to be filled with dirt as if it attempted to be buried, correct?
No, it appears as it does in the photograph.
Hadn't appeared to be burned, correct?
Correct.
All right. And from your gross observation of it, did you see any blood on it?
I did not examine it closely, but no gross observation of blood.
Was this brandy glass or brandy snifter here?
I do recall seeing it there, yes.
That was in plain view also, right?
Yes.
And it was still had a little bit, a few drops of whatever in it, correct, when you saw it?
I don't recall.
Okay. That really wasn't your purview, so you didn't document it, right?
That's right.
Okay. You also saw a white rag which appeared to be a diaper at the base of the toilet, correct?
Yes.
And you were able to see from a gross observation that had blood on it, right?
Yes.
Or what appeared to be blood,
Yes, it appeared to be wet and appeared to have blood on it.
right? But from my understanding, tell me if I'm wrong, until something is tested, you can't say actually it's blood, correct?
Well, yes, we do. Besides our observations, we may do a presumptive test for blood, and then it's examined further in the laboratory.
As a matter of fact, you did some presumptive tests at the scene, did you not?
I did.
And you did them upstairs in the dressing area room?
Yes, I tested several items of clothing on the recliner and on the floor in front of the recliner.
You tested the recliner also, did you not?
I don't believe I tested the recliner itself, just the
Okay.
clothing items on it.
Okay, and you tested it to see if there was any blood on the items that were strewn on the chair, correct?
Yes, I made observations. I looked at it visually with the aid of a flashlight, as well as any suspected stains were tested with the Castlemeyer reagent, Castlemeyer.
Why don't you tell us what the Castlemeyer reagent is, now that you mentioned it?
It's a presumptive test for blood. It's utilized by wetting a swab, like a Q-tip swab, with water. That swab is applied to a potential stain. I make observations as to the stain solubility. Does it go onto the swab? What does it look like? I then test it with a series of reagents that are make up the Castlemeyer test, and I look for a color reaction indicating the presence of blood.
The Castlemeyer test, as I understand it, is pretty strong, right? In other words, the dilution area of blood is pretty minor in terms. Let me start that again. How good is the Castlemeyer test? Let's ask it generically.
It's a good test for blood. It's very sensitive, can detect even dilute concentrations of blood.
And when you say it can detect dilute concentrations of blood, it can do it from what, 1 to 1 parts per million?
Well, I believe it goes up to about 1 in 10,000 dilution, so very sensitive, I would describe it as.
Is that the Castlemeyer test to stain that you used is 1 to 10,000? Or are there others that can be stronger?
No, that's just my recollection as to the sensitivity of that particular color reagent.
Okay. So in other words, it's pretty sensitive, right?
Yes.
And you didn't find anything on any other clothes, right?
No.
Did you collect any pants from the scene?
No.
Did you collect any socks from the scene?
No.
Was the gun that was near Miss Clarkson still at the scene when you were there?
No, that had been collected prior to my examination.
And so prior to 6 o'clock in the evening, that had been collected. Is that true?
Yes.
Were you there, or did you ever see anybody handling a gun, the gun that was downstairs at Miss Clarkson's area while you were there?
No.
Did anyone tell you that there was a gun found down by Miss Clarkson's ankles?
Yes.
Who told you that?
I believe that was Mr. Renneria.
Okay. And did you ask Mr. Renneria any other questions as a result of learning that?
No, just I asked him where it was specifically, and that
Where,
was
I'm sorry, where what was just?
where the firearm was recovered specifically.
Okay. And what did he tell you?
He said near or under her left leg or foot area.
Okay. So that was important for you then to examine under the area of her feet, correct?
Examine the area around her feet, yes.
Yes, for trace evidence, right?
Yes.
And you did see a blood, by the way, was the chair already removed?
No, the victim was still in the chair and had not been moved at the time of my
So
examination.
everything was the same as far as you knew, except for the fact that the gun had been taken away, right?
Yes.
And you don't know whether the gun had been brought back for any purpose after 6 o'clock in the evening, correct?
Correct. I never saw that firearm.
And you were downstairs a number of times, correct?
Yes, through the course of the evening.
Okay. So going back to where you were downstairs in the bathroom, when you saw the white rag on the floor and you saw that it was not filled with dirt, right?
Correct. Yes.
It did not look like it had been burned, correct?
Correct.
It was not in a trash can, correct?
No, just lying on the floor.
You learned from Mr. Renteria that the gun that was allegedly involved in this incident was laying in plain view, correct?
Yes.
And so when you went through the rest of the house and the foyer, the white particles that you collected in 5 were in plain view, correct?
Yes.
The white particle number 10 was in plain view, correct?
Yes.
The white particle number 11 was in plain view, correct?
Yes.
You didn't find anything in the trash containers indicating that anybody had tried to throw anything out, correct?
No.
Okay. You didn't find anything in any of the sinks that would lead you to ask that the sinks or the traps be removed, correct?
No.
You did also examine the master bedroom, the bedding area, correct?
Yes.
And you were examining the bedding area to see if it looked like there had been any sex on the bed, correct?
Well, any obvious staining, be it possible blood or possible semen, so anything that stood out to me as being significant.
And when you looked at the bedding area, the bed looked like it had appeared made, right? Made was your term, right?
Yes, in other words, it didn't look messy or disheveled. It appeared to be made.
Okay. And did you collect any bed sheets?
I did not know.
Okay. And if you thought there was something of evidential value on them, you would have collected them, right?
Yes, it'd be something that the detective.
Okay. You did a small diagram, a tiny.
Yes, the area as well as the TV room.
All right. And that's on the second page of your report?
Yes.
All right. Could we have page 1900 put up on the screen? This would be,
I don't know what it is.
I just want to look to his diagram if I can, Your Honor. That's kind of
Well,
hard
why
to
don't you take it
explain.
off the screen, just
Okay.
make it an exhibit.
All right, we'll make it, all right, it's fine. Did you do a diagram?
I did a hand-drawn sketch of 2 areas that I examined.
In your hand-drawn sketch, did you put any areas such as the length or width of the foyer area?
No, I did not make any measurements myself.
Okay, is that fair to say that you made no measurements of anything at the scene?
That's right, I personally did not.
You did not measure where, for instance, in number 5, where those white particles were from the wall, did you?
No, that wasn't done by me.
Did you direct anybody to do it?
Yes, I worked with Darnell Carter, who is a forensic identification specialist.
Okay, and did Darnell Carter do this in your presence?
Yes.
Okay, so you were aware of what some of the measurements were?
I was aware that they were being measured. I didn't record the measurements myself.
Okay, that's because you were not asked to do anything with regard to any measurements, correct?
Correct. We do different duties. Typically, measurement scene diagramming is done by forensic identification specialists from our identification section.
But the measurements that you took, you thought were significant, right? Or directed to be taken?
Well, yes, any item that we're going to collect is typically and routinely measured for its location.
Okay, and so any measurements you took were the ones that you thought were important, or any measurements that you directed your associate to take, you thought would be important, right?
Yes.
Did you ask her to measure the risers on the stair?
No, mine was particularly for the items of evidence that were going to be taken, not for any structural dimensions.
Right. Did you ask her to measure where on the stair item 10 was taken from the location of the body to where it landed?
I asked that its location be documented, not specifically from any point to any specific point, just where it was in the room.
Did you ask that the length from where the deceased was to where items 5 were found to be measured?
No, I didn't specifically direct any exact or specific measurement.
Would the same be true for item 11?
That's correct, that its position be documented, but not specifically from what reference points.
Okay. And did you also go through the downstairs?
Yes.
Okay. And when you went through the downstairs, by the way, did you go through the living room?
Yes.
Okay. And in the living room was items of evidence with evidence tags on them?
Yes, if it's the living room you're referring to, I believe there were some like drinking glasses.
Okay. Could we have? I'm not sure what number this is. 880088, is that possible? Yes. Your Honor, because this is
This would be quintuple C.
quintuple C, okay? All right. Was the bottle of tequila in plain view?
Yes, I do recall seeing that.
Okay. Didn't look like anyone had tried to throw that into the trash, right?
No.
The brandy snifter here, was that in plain view?
Yes.
Didn't look like anyone had tried to get rid of that, right?
No.
The Canada Dry bottle was in plain view?
Yes.
Didn't look like anyone had tried to get rid of that, correct?
No.
And so this was the condition that you saw the living room in when you went through it, correct?
Yes.
Did you go to the bar area of the house?
Yes.
You have item 2.146.
Triple D.
And this is the bar area downstairs off the living room a little bit?
Yes.
Okay. And did you see anything in there for you that was significant, such as any evidence that looked like it was trying to be destroyed?
No.
Okay. Now, could we blow this up here, please? See that Jose Cuervo tequila bottle?
Yes.
Was that in that location filled that it was in?
I don't recall that item specifically.
Okay. You didn't make any notation about that item, did you?
No.
Okay. Did you note whether or not there was any rings where dust was, where bottles had been removed on the bar?
No, I did not examine that area at all.
Okay. You just looked at it, correct?
Yes, essentially just walked through, did a general observation, and then moved on.
And nothing that you saw was significant indicating there was any blood that you could see, right?
That's correct,
It
right?
didn't look like anyone had tried to destroy evidence in there, correct?
No,
Okay. And therefore, you didn't document anything further in that room, right?
correct.
Okay. Now, I think we've had several pictures marked. I think it's previously FFF. It's 2.222. FFFF, I'm sorry. Okay. You see the coroner people here?
Yes.
Were you here or did you hear when any of this was going on?
Well, actually, for the majority of the time that the personnel were around the victim, I was in another part of the residence.
Didn't you just tell me earlier that you weren't there when the coroner people came?
No, I believe I testified that they arrived shortly after I had arrived.
They arrived shortly after you arrived and you came at 6, okay?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Did you ever observe this scene here?
Did I observe specifically that moment in
Yes,
time?
at that moment in time.
I don't recall, no.
Did you ever see the coroner's people at the scene? In other words, did you come down the stairs and look at any people from the coroner's office at the scene? At any time?
No, I had pretty much left that to Mr. Renteria.
Okay. So your answer is that you were upstairs the whole time they were downstairs, right?
Well, I do not recall being there when the bulk of the examination of the body was occurring.
Okay. So when was items 5 collected?
Well, I don't recall specifically in time. It would have been collected if it would have been in the way for these personnel, but I don't recall if it was before or after this time.
And there's nothing in this picture that can tell you?
Not that I can see, no.
Okay. Let's go to 1.108. I think it's previously marked HHHH. Okay. Item 11 is still there?
I see the placard. I don't know that the item is still present.
Okay. So again, is there anything from your notes when you can tell what the timing was of when you collected items 5?
No, I didn't record the times of collection.
And that would be the same then with items 10 or 11, correct?
Correct, for any of the items that I...
So it could be that the placard is here and the material is not, or is the material there?
That's correct. I don't know at that time if
Well,
it's
let's see
still
if we can
present.
blow it up. Does that help you any?
It appears that that's the item next to the placard on the left side.
Okay, so it'd be fair to say then that your collection came after the coroner's people were here, correct?
At least for that item, yes.
Okay, for item 5, did it come after the coroner's people were there?
I don't recall.
Okay. Now, did you ever go back to Alhambra after you left it on that evening?
No, I never returned to location.
All right. When you came and you were on your hands and knees looking around the areas of the body, let me just ask you, and this has been previously marked DDDD. 4 Ds. I have. Did you see anything on Miss Clarkson's shoe at the scene resembling this little white piece?
I don't recall seeing that item.
It's not documented in your notes, is it?
No, I don't recall if I saw that or not.
Okay. Can we mark scan number 2? Scan number 2.
You want this marked next in order?
Yes, please. I don't think it's been previously been marked as a
Trial exhibit.
defense exhibit, as a trial exhibit.
Quintuple E. 5 E's.
Now, see all this white, again, debris around here? You see that?
Yes, I see what appears to be a large blood stain and some debris on the floor.
Did you collect any of this?
No,
And the reason for it is you did not think it was evidential value, correct?
no.
Because there was a lot of white debris that was around, and a lot of times it's not of evidential value, correct?
Correct. I didn't see anything immediately around the deceased that I felt was anything that I needed to collect.
Right. Well, you're trained to collect items, right? You're trained to see items that look of evidential value in the 300 or 400 scenes you said you examined, right?
Too fast?
You are, I am way too fast. You're trained to look for items of evidential value, right?
Yes, as appropriate.
Okay. And and you've done that, what, you said 300 to 400 times?
Yes.
Okay. And again, had you seen anything in that specific area that you thought was important, you would have collected it, correct?
Certainly, yes.
Okay. Now, with regard to the people in the foyer area when you arrived, is it your recollection you can't recall?
Well, when I arrived, I recall seeing several investigators in the north end of the foyer, and I recall coroner's personnel arriving sometime shortly after.
All right. Now, let me ask you this. Scene photo 003, Jennifer? Your Honor, can we mark this?
Quintuple F.
From this picture, do you recognize anybody in this picture?
I can't recognize, at least from where I'm sitting, any particular people.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach him just
You may.
to clear a copy?
Yes.
You can hold on to that for a second, okay?
Are you ready for my answer?
Yes. I'm just waiting for you. I don't want to rush you.
Thank you. I recognize Detective Steve Katz, who in the photograph is to the left of the doorway, which is the south entrance.
They're using multiple letters to mark what are they called? Evidence. And I don't know why. Now they're up to what? I can't even say it. I can't even say that word. 5, whatever you call 5. I don't know why I can't just be 5A or A5. Why is it AAAAA? It's stupid.
Where the
Yeah.
foyer is?
Is that, am I pointing to the right person?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe the person in the middle in the front is Dan Anderson, who's a criminalist for the LA County Coroner's Office.
Okay.
I also believe that's Detective Lillianfield to his right, although I'm not certain. I see Steve Renneria, who is in the doorway on the left side. Yes.
That's the person who asked you to come to the scene?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I don't know who the other person is.
Okay. Now, do you know from the time when you collected evidence, was it before this picture was taken or after? If you know.
I don't know.
Okay. And did you ask Mr. Renteria how many people had been in and out of the foyer area before you started to get down on your hands and knees and look for evidence?
No.
When you were in the foyer area, were you asked to collect any of the EMT pads?
No.
Were you asked to collect any of the gloves the detectives wore to check to see if there was blood on them?
No.
Okay. Besides the very specific things you told us about, collecting items 5, items 10, items 11, and item 19, the white jacket, did you collect any other item?
I did pick up for packaging item number 4, which is a knob to the deadbolt latch
Right.
in the foyer area. I also collected the false eyelashes on the toilet tank
Okay.
in the bathroom by the foyer.
Okay.
And I think that was it besides the jacket upstairs.
Was there any taser wire on the floor when you were on your hands and knees looking at the white objects?
No, that item had already been retrieved.
Okay. Were there any, not taser wire, but like a taser container on the floor?
No.
Okay. As a matter of fact, do you know what actually had been retrieved by the time you got there?
No, just as far as the firearm and its location, and that there were other items, but I didn't specifically get a list of those
Okay.
things.
Now, trace evidence can be very small, correct?
Yes.
And one of the principles of trace evidence is that if I go stomping through a scene, I can bring stuff with me, correct?
Yes, that's a
I can
possibility.
bring stuff on my shoes in, correct?
That's a possibility, yes.
All right, and if I used to go into a scene and I go stomping out of the scene, I can bring stuff out of the scene, correct?
Again, a possibility.
Right? And one of the things that teach you when you're learning about trace evidence is that it's highly movable, correct?
It can be.
Right? And sometimes you can't even see it, can you?
That's correct.
And the more people that you go have tramping into a scene without having protective covering, the more people tramping out of a scene with protective covering, the more likely it is that there could be some loss of evidence, correct?
Well, yes, in general, we could limit the amount of personnel if possible to eliminate that possibility.
Do you know how people had been in that scene before you got there at 6 o'clock at night on February 3rd?
Objection, I'm calling for hearsay or speculation.
Would you have any way of having personal knowledge?
No.
All right, sustain.
All right. Did you ever ask how many people had to come into the foyer area before you got there at 6 o'clock?
No.
Okay. Did you ever ask what the condition is that if everyone that went into the foyer area wore gloves?
Did I ask
Did you
that?
ask?
No.
Did you ask if everyone into the foyer area wore booties?
No.
Did you ask if everyone into the foyer area wore hairnets?
No.
As a matter of fact, sir, when you look for trace evidence and when you examine it in a lab, and you've done that, correct?
Yes, for over 8 years.
For over 8 years, and as a matter of fact, one of the areas that you're certified and testifying before the courts is trace evidence, correct?
Yes, including hairs and fibers.
And hairs and fibers. And when you're looking at something in the lab, you usually do wear gloves, right?
Yes.
Hair nets, right?
No.
Face masks?
No.
Do you normally want to make sure there's no contamination?
Well, it depends on the item that I'm examining, but typically,
You get your hair into an area, right?
well, it would be consideration, yes.
Yes. So you try to take whatever precautions are necessary to make sure there's no contamination in a crime scene or out of a crime scene, if you think it's a crime scene, right?
Yes, we do make reasonable attempts for that.
And you would do that even in a death scene, correct? That you're getting, right?
Yes.
Because at the time you were there, you didn't know whether this is a crime scene, did you? is not there. Let me ask you this. Did you ask anyone at the scene to vacuum the area of the red rug where the decedent was to see if any trace evidence could be picked up?
No, that's not appropriate.
Did you, my question to you is, did you ask?
No.
Okay. Now, you just told us that it's not appropriate, correct?
Yes.
Now, did you know, you already told us that you didn't know how many people had been in there, correct?
Correct.
So except for items such as the teeth or what appeared to be teeth, because you didn't know whether they were teeth, did you?
Did I know whether those items were teeth pieces? Only that they appeared to be from my general observations.
But you had no way of confirming that under a microscope, right?
Right. I'm not an odontologist or a doctor to determine that.
Right. You didn't know whether there were any fingernail, correct?
Only that I didn't observe anything that appeared to be fingernail pieces.
Okay. But you didn't have any way of confirming that because you didn't put it under a microscope, right?
Well, on my general observations to know there was no pieces that I recognized.
Okay, so there was no natural pieces of fingernail that you saw, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever learn whether or not there was any natural piece of fingernail taken off Miss Clarkson's body at any time?
No.
Okay. And really, once you finished collecting the evidence, you were finished, right?
Yes.
And you never went back to the scene, right?
Correct.
You never were asked to write a report, formal report.
No, that was done by Mr. Renneria.
Okay. You weren't asked to write a report with any opinions in it ever, right?
Correct.
Okay. You didn't inquire whether the EMT pads would be needed to be picked up, right?
No.
And you said that you didn't inquire, you didn't ask for vacuuming, and you said it was inappropriate to vacuum the carpet for trace evidence?
Yes.
Why?
Well, if a vacuum were utilized to collect evidence items, we have the potential for getting things that are not contemporary to what we're investigating. In other words, things that are historic that may be down in the carpet that could inhibit my examination of the items that were on top or more likely related to the actual incident that we're investigating.
So is it fair to say that when you take evidence from a scene to examine, you do it based on the circumstances that you have, right?
Yes.
And therefore, not everything is relevant that's at a scene, right?
I don't understand the question.
Not everything that was white on the floor was relevant, right?
That's right.
Not everything that was white on the floor was evidence, right?
Correct.
And in fact, even some of the items you picked up in the bedroom and tested with your KM tested, turned out you didn't collect them, right?
Right.
Because you left them there after you tested them, right?
Correct.
Because they're not relevant, right?
Correct.
So a lot of times you can test something at a scene and it's not evidence, is it?
Correct. It may require a little further examination, and it may be determined that that item is not relevant, and we move on.
Ms. Kindergarten, how much longer?
About 2 or 3, about 2 or 3 minutes, that's all I have. I'm trying to finish
How
it.
much redirect do you feel you have?
Judge, maybe a question.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Now, did you ask any of the detectives about the gun that was collected?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did you observe whether or not any catch cloths were used for other evidence that was collected while you were there that you may not have collected?
I don't know what you mean by catch.
Well, when you're at a scene, sometimes you pick up an item. Don't you want to make sure if you're going to wrap it that you catch any trace evidence that may be on it?
Normally, when I do that, it's in the laboratory setting, not at the
Okay.
crime scene.
That's fair. All right. Now, you do put things in paper bindles or bags, right?
Yes.
And you testified that you put the white jacket in a brown paper bag?
Yes.
And you use paper because paper keeps the evidence, or what you think is evidence, clean and utilizable for further testing, right?
Yes, and it doesn't trap moisture. I don't want, for instance, mold to grow or something like that. It allows air circulation.
Okay. And that's why paper is used, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, with regard to, did anyone ask you to check the lipstick that was found in her bra?
No.
Okay. Did anyone ask you to look at the evidence, collect the amount of people that have been in the scene to see whether or not there had been any contamination of the scene?
No.
Okay. And as you sit here today, is it your clear testimony that the items you collected were easily seen by you?
Yes, I believe so.
And it could be easily seen by anyone who looked at the house?
Objection, that calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Did somebody point some of these items out to you?
Well, some of the items already had evidence placards on them, but they were what I would describe as obvious.
So some of the items that you considered evidence were clearly obvious, correct?
Yes.
And had not been hidden, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Redirect.
Your Honor, it's just one area, and I may have misunderstood you. You indicated on the cross-examination that you did do some KM testing of some clothing upstairs, correct?
Yes.
And that KM testing turned out negative, correct?
For all items except for the jacket that was collected as item number 19, which I did detect blood on.
That was my question. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Recross.
Nothing needed.
Thank you. Subject to recall, you may step down. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to go over a little scheduling. When we selected you, or when the attorney selected you, we went through a schedule because one of the ways we got you was, of course, to guarantee you days off when you needed them. And we have some of those days off coming for both you and the attorneys. I know that I've been told that several of you are going to be needing to take days off for graduating family members, which I understand, and that will certainly grant that. I would only ask that whenever possible, if we can do a half day if possible, let us know rather than take the whole day off. We're going to be dark tomorrow. Congratulations to Mr. Dixon, because his daughter is graduating the Kennedy School at Harvard and he is going back, and we need both of the attorneys. We would have needed if we were going to be in session tomorrow, so we won't be here tomorrow. And I'm sure you will. Congratulations. And think of all the money you don't have to spend now. And
I've never seen that here.
I'm going to say lunch on Mr. Dixon. So if you'll make sure and let Wendy know, because I know that June and July are the worst months, and we're just going to be down a number of days that we can't do it any other way, because I want to accommodate you as I said I would, and I intend to do that. So just let us know. And with that in mind, we will be in recess until 9:30 on Monday morning. Thank you.
Okay, we got through another witness. So now we are done with Phil Spector for the week, and we are going to portal over to our members only live stream. So if you're not a member, make sure you join, or I don't know what will happen if you get portaled and you're not a member. So we're going to go over there and we're going to look at the second part of Jim McCabe's cross-examination from the Karen Reed trial. So thanks for coming out. And we will, if you're not going to watch Jim McCabe with us, I will see you guys on Monday. Have a good weekend. Love you guys. Thanks for coming out. Bye.